Well, um, today we have been sharing with you, and we'll share more with you from the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda, who wrote this book, Autobiography of a Yogi. Could you raise your hand if you have heard of this book or even opened its pages? Wonderful. Well, so nice to see so many hands. It's really thrilling what this book has done for the world. It really has given many people at one point it was 5 million copies sold, but that of course doesn't count copies in libraries and copies that are borrowed. So many people who tell me they have the book say, it wasn't mine, it was my uncle's. Or it wasn't mine, it was given to me, but I never really read it. One person came to our class saying, the book fell off the shelf and hit me on the head. And so I thought, okay, maybe there's something that I need. There's a message for me in this book. So I myself read this book when I was in college, and I have to confess that at that time I didn't have much of a belief in God. I wouldn't say I believed there was no God, but I felt that I just didn't really know. Whatever advice had been, whatever evidence had been presented to my mind, I did not yet find convincing. It's partly because the description of God that I had heard or had been told was not appealing to me. It wasn't attractive. And all that I understood I would get from following God's will is that I might not be thrown into jail. That was about it. It was more or less like God was the police. And so either you follow the laws, or else don't get caught. And so I thought, what's the high ideal in that? What energy does it take to do that? What's the point even of that? How does that help us to become better people? And then I read this book, Autobiography of a Yogi. What impressed me about, or what inspired me to read the book, was I met a man who was following Yoganandaji's teachings. It was not Swami Kriyananda. He was a student of Swami Kriyananda, Yoganandaji's direct disciple. And this man was a very accomplished computer scientist, and I was in college studying computer science. So this man was professionally successful outwardly, and yet at the same time he was very strong in himself. He was very collected. He was very calm. Now, I had no interest in being calm, which was good because I wasn't at all calm. In college, I had the bouncing leg and the sort of fidgety, restless, okay, what's next, what's next, what's next? And is there something to eat also? Just busy. And so this man was centered in himself. And that attracted me. I hadn't seen that before. I had seen people with great mental ability in my college, the professors and so on, and they sort of radiated brain power. But to see a fully integrated person who had strength of will and also seemed just to be self-possessed is another way to describe it. I said, I like that. What is that? What do you do that makes you this way? And I didn't know if he would say, I'm a vegetarian, or I drink carrot juice, or I didn't know what he was going to say. He said, I meditate. And have you ever heard of meditation? And I hadn't. He said, have you ever heard of Autobiography of a Yogi? And I hadn't. So anyway, I got the book, and I was so inspired by Yoganandaji's example, by his teachings, and in particular, by his discussion of the technique of Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga is a meditation technique, as he describes, and he says the benefits of it are that if you practice Kriya for 30 seconds, you will get the same spiritual growth, or you can get the same spiritual advancement that you would normally get in 1 year of right living. Now, you don't have to be a mathematician to figure out, 30 seconds or 1 year, which would I prefer? I was actually studying math, and so I started thinking about it. 30 seconds versus 1 year of right living, 1 year of correct living. Every response correct. Today there is no coffee, Unglika. No problem. I am at peace. Nalaki, there will also be none for you. No problem, I am at peace. What's the big idea? A little copy, please. You see, it's so hard when there's heat, when there's kosu, when there's traffic, to keep our cool. And so to be able to keep our cool for a whole year, or meditate for 30 seconds. Sounds pretty good. And so this technique, he said, the way it accelerates our growth is it burns out the karma that we have more quickly. I'm not going to go deeply into this teaching right now, maybe later, maybe not. But all of our past karma is stored as samskars or vrittis in the spine. And these vrittis block the flow of the kundalini energy up the spine. If we can clear out this karma through meditation, then this passageway through which kundalini flows is more free, more quickly. We don't have to live out the effects of karma outwardly. It takes just as much energy to get rid of that karma as it would if we had lived outwardly. It's not a shortcut in that way, but it's focused and working out the problem where it is, rather than waiting for it to present itself to our attention outwardly. So this is one way. This is one short explanation. This technique of Kriya Yoga was first given to the world by Lahiri Mahashaya, who's here on the end, and actually today is his birthday. And so it's a very auspicious day to be speaking of this great guru. He was given the technique by Mahavatar Babaji. And he said, give it to all who ask freely and who are willing to take it. Previous to then, the technique had been secret and was only known to a few yogis in the Himalayas. So if you found yourself in the Himalayas and knocked on the door of the right cave, you might find it. But otherwise, no. And so with Lahiri Mahashaya descending from Raniket, from the mountains, sharing it with all, then it became more widely known. In fact, this technique, he's the one who gave it the name Kriya. And as I said, it was for all people, not just renunciates, but householders, for anyone who wants to grow towards God more quickly. So this is this was the thing that gripped me about Autobiography of a Yogi and also opened me up to what God could be. Yoganandaji describes in his book his experience of samadhi. Not only the poem he writes, Samadhi, but also his experience of cosmic consciousness. It was thrilling to me, the way he described him being able to see in all directions, being able to expand into the vast cosmos, seeing himself in everything and everything in himself. Really thrilling. This was a description of God that I could relate to. And most of all, the Shankaracharya's definition of God or explanation of God, I should say, not definition isn't really, the definitions are for us. It's not as if he had to define God and God said, oh, is that what I am? But he needs to find a way to explain it to us in a way that we can understand. So he said, God is Satchidanandam. And then Yoganandaji translated this into English as ever existing, ever conscious, ever new bliss. And you see, that bliss, that was something that I could relate to. What does it mean to find God? I don't really know. I would love to be able to tell you, and if you get there first, please tell me and all of us. But one thing I can understand is that when we have God, we are happy all the time. We are satisfied in our hearts. We are fed. Imagine if you had a lifetime subscription of free idlis and chutney. Anytime you want, you press a button, there's the idli and chutney, and it's perfect. You'll never be hungry again. You might ask, is there anything else on the menu? But still, we will always be fed. We will always be satisfied. So then if we go to someone's house and they say, so sorry, the idli batter went off and so we have no dinner, we say, no problem. I have already eaten. What is it? Saptain? Yes. Yeah? Anyway, something like that. I've eaten. So I'm not hungry. So if there's no food, there's no problem. And if someone says, here are all the idlis in the world brought to your door, we say, that's okay. I actually had some already, so I'm okay. If there's great wealth of idli, if there's lack of idli, we're okay. Of course, there's more to life than idli. But what I mean, I think, but in any case, once we have been fed, once we have eaten, then we're not hungry. We're not looking for happiness outside. We're not worried if this person is not giving me the love that I need, because I'm feeling it inside. If this person is giving me so much of love, I am very grateful, and I will offer my love and gratitude in return. But if suddenly that person goes, if that person is taken from me, I will still be grateful for the love that I had from them, and I know that the love I feel inside will continue. I'm not dependent or desperate to hang on to these things outside myself, which are fragile and fleeting. And so I should say that though we can't take anything with us when we go, and when I say go, I mean go, we can take our consciousness. We do take our consciousness. It is not so much what we do in this life, it is who we become through what we do in this life. Every lesson we learn stays with us. Every meditation, you could say, every 30 seconds of meditation stays with us. One good reason to meditate is because the yogis tell us anyone who has meditated a little bit at the time of death, they pass easily through the transition and are aware of the other world around them because they've been practicing, having consciousness beyond just the body. Yoganandaji said, for those souls who have not done much meditation yet, it's hard for them to perceive the astral world when they pass. He said they either see it as a gray mist with shadows moving around, or they see nothing at all. And so a little bit of meditation, Krishna says in the Gita, will save you from dire fears and colossal sufferings. And this is one, that we will be able to perceive things in the beyond. But that's not the only benefit, because you can say, well, that's quite a promise, but I won't find out until it's too late, and then I won't be able to come back and say anything to you. So I understand. So even in meditating now, we start to find calmness, clarity. The BP goes down. There's a lot of benefits that we get from meditating, even now while we're still here. So when we come to the idea of doing God's will and of knowing God's will, the first thing I would say is if you have to pick one, try to do God's will rather than to know God's will. And what do I mean by that? You see, in an effort to know, we can sit and wonder forever. Is it right? Isn't it right? Should I do this? Should I not do that? Give me some kind of a sign. And was that a sign? And on and on. If we say, once I know 100%, then I can do. And I agree. If we have 100% knowledge, sure, it's easy to be brave. In fact, it doesn't require any bravery at all. If you know the outcome. There was a story of a warrior. And I'm not sure if it was a true story or not, but throughout his whole childhood and adulthood, he had this dream of an island. It was an island in the middle of the sea, and it had a particular shape and so on. And so he never knew what this island meant, and if it even existed. And then one day, at the very end of his life, he found himself, when he was an old man, he found himself traveling to an island, and it was in fact this thing that he had always dreamed of. And then, I don't remember exactly the story, if there was one last battle to be fought or something happened, but he basically died on that island. And as he was dying, as he lay dying, he said to himself, if only I had known that this island was the scene of my death, what a brave warrior I would have been. If I had known that only when you get there, that's the ending, then I could have been strong, because I wasn't going to die here. Mylapore, no problem, you're safe. And so I thought he might have said, if only I had known that was the island, I would have gone in the other direction or something. But it's true, if we knew the outcome, we could be very brave, because we would know, I'll be safe. But we really are always safe. Swamiji said once to someone who was asking, but I'm afraid of death. He said, why be afraid of death? Think of how many times you've died already. We died, we came back, here we are. I had a dream once of a friend of mine. Well, it really felt like a past life dream. It was a friend in the present life. But this friend took a knife and stabbed me through the heart. And I woke up in that moment, and my heart hurt. It was quite an experience. And I was shaken by this, perhaps understandably, because it was so vivid, it was so real. And then I also had to see this friend in an hour or two, so I knew I couldn't go up and say, what's the big idea, and so, because, she wasn't aware that she was in this dream of mine. And so I thought, how can I heal this hurt? How can I get over the fact that this pain has come to me and that it really felt real? It may have been a memory. And I decided that, well, though I may have been stabbed in the heart, and though I was betrayed, and though I was murdered, I'm upset about it, but I'm here to be upset about it. I'm still here. If I'm sad about what happened, it means I'm still alive, feeling sad about what happened. And so, what does it really matter? How many times do we encounter hurts? We find a way to pick ourselves back up and get moving again. Now, when it comes to choosing a course of action, sometimes it is much better to just do anything rather than wait until we have all the answers. Too much thinking can trap us into doing nothing. There's one phrase that people like to say sometimes, analysis is paralysis. Too much thinking, too much analyzing just keeps us safely on the couch rather than in actually putting out energy to do something. So it's better to just do, to put out willpower. How do we do that? What is willpower? Yoganandaji defined willpower as, desire plus energy directed to fulfillment. These two things. Desire plus energy. And this is how we began today. One of the essentials of willpower is energy. And the other is desire. And this is helpful to know because we may think on the spiritual path especially, oh, no, you're not supposed to have desires. Desires are bad. But desires direct our energy. Even the desire for God is a desire. Even the desire to have no desires is a desire. And so it is desire that directs our energy. And so this is how we can tune into, if we're not feeling any will to do anything, check these two things. Why don't I feel like doing anything, or why don't I feel like doing this job? One is, do I have the energy? For example, suppose you have a fever, and suppose you're ill, and then there's this thing that has to be done, and you'd say, I'd love to do it, I want to do it, but guess what? It's only bed for me. There's nothing I can do. I can't even lift my arm. So I've got all the desire, no energy. And just the opposite can happen. We can have all kinds of energy and have no clear idea where to direct it. For example, suppose we come home to a huge mess in the house. And it's no surprise how the mess got there. We ourselves created it and haven't yet cleaned it up. And say, well, we're so tired, I couldn't possibly, someone says, could you clean up even 10% of that mess? Not even 10. Could I do after the day that I had? Plus I have a headache, plus I'm hungry, plus I'm tired. So I'm so sorry. Maybe Nalaki, but not today. Then the phone rings, and it's a friend of ours from 20 years ago. Somebody who is in town says, guess what? I'm flying, where, maybe to Thailand or something, but my flight got delayed. I'm stuck in Chennai overnight. I'm only here for an hour, only for this evening. Why don't you come out? Maybe we can have a coffee or see a movie or something. What do? Sure! Run out the door. Now, there was no energy for cleaning up the house, but there was plenty of energy for a movie and coffee. And so what's the difference? Desire. That's all it is. So when we're working with ourselves, we can ask ourselves, if I have energy, if I don't have a fever, where is my desire? I really don't feel like doing it. But, sometimes we can say, that's true, I don't, but I have to do it. And once I get it over with, I won't have to think about it anymore. In fact, this is a great way to develop your willpower to finish whatever it is that you start, no matter how trivial. Yoganandaji taught this experience to Swami Kriyananda when they were together Yoganandaji had on this table, after they had some guests over for lunch and then the guests left, and Yoganandaji, there was a fork on the table and there was a glass. And Yoganandaji was hitting the edge of the fork to try to flip it so it would go into the glass. And so he kept hitting the fork and missing the glass, and then hitting it again and missing the glass. And he went on, and Swamiji was, wondering, well, what kind of deep teaching is this, Vedanta? Or, trying to understand what could come from this lesson. And so he finally hit the fork, and it went into the glass, and it broke the glass. And Yoganandaji looked at the glass and looked at Swamiji and said, "But I got it in." And this is the way we should be in life. Even if in the process of getting what we need to get done, something breaks, say, "Oh well, that's all right, I got it in." It helps you tremendously in two ways. One is, there are things we think we can't do. And when we do them, when we bring something to completion, we have this great sense of satisfaction. We learned something about ourselves. We gained. We grew. But the other thing is that when we have something unfinished, it's there in the back of our minds. I have this thing and I haven't yet done it. 80% done, 20% undone. And then every time someone brings, don't forget did you link your pen with Aadhaar yet? Oh, please, don't bring it up. It's there in the back of our minds, this Aadhaar card needing to be linked. And so, although not with your telephone apparently anymore, but all these things are on our minds unfinished, and we've committed a little bit of energy to them. And as soon as we finish them, that energy is freed up. You know this also if you finally do link your Aadhaar card. We have this great sense of satisfaction that, see what I have accomplished today, and so on. I won't delve into the philosophical implications of that too much. But the point is that when we finish these tasks, we feel this great relief. It is a release of the energy that we had been reserving to either do that project or to worry about that project. I haven't done it yet. 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 This thought keeps going. As soon as we do it, so this gives us our energy back, and it strengthens our willpower. And so another way, how do we do this though? How do we develop? Suppose I don't feel like doing that. How do I get my willpower engaged? The simple answer is to try to find a way to get your mind to say yes. Yoganandaji had a phrase, Swamiji had a phrase, say yes to life. Once Swamiji wasn't feeling all that well, and Yoganandaji came down the stairs, and he called him Walter, which was his last name. He said, "How are you, Walter?" And Swamiji said, "Well," and Yoganandaji said, "That's good." He just wasn't indulging him in any of that. It was just a mood that a young man could be in, as Swamiji said. If anyone was actually in sorrow, had any kind of real grief, Yoganandaji was very sensitive. He wasn't just saying, "No room for feelings." Of course he wasn't like that. But in this case, it was like, "Come on, let's go." And this can be very helpful for us to do with ourselves, is to say, what can I say yes to? Even if it's only, after I do this unpleasant task, I will get to have 4 mudaka. You can bribe yourself if it will work. Just anything to just let me get it done and over with so I can feel better. You can say, I'll listen to music while I clean up or do the dishes or whatever. That will be fun at least, or anything. We don't have to just say, do it. Find a way to say yes. Because the secret also of willpower, which is sometimes conceived of as laser beam focus burning through all obstacles, the other side of it is willingness. Willingness. We're willing to do something when we want to. Master said it when people said it's hard to meditate and concentrate on God. He said when you really want something, it's hard not to concentrate on it. If there's some outcome that we're praying for and whatever it is, we're always, please let it be so, please let it be so, please let it be so. It's there in the back of our mind, constantly focused on it. So if we can make that thought God, he said, then we are free. One way to get your mind to say yes is through affirmation. The affirmation, the technique of affirmations Yoganandaji gave as a very powerful way to engage our willpower. And so one way we did it, when we did this walk in place, we also said, I am awake and ready. This is the affirmation. And so we're saying to ourselves, I am awake and ready. And part of the mind is saying, is it true? Am I really? I don't know. Let me just, I am awake and ready. We grab the mind's attention and we direct it. Well, I'm awake and ready. And we find what happened at the end. I actually feel a little bit awake and ready. I am positive. I am energetic. I am enthusiastic. No, I'm enthusiastic. Just do it. And what happens? We trick ourselves, and then we find that we actually are enthusiastic. We don't wonder or worry too much about whether I am or not. We just say it, and that becomes our truth. In fact, it is true. Our souls are made of joy. We are made of joy. You see that in young children especially. They're just happy. My cousin, I have he's not little anymore, but years ago he was little, Bhuvanesh, in Trivandrum. And he had a grandfather who was a very scary man, partly because of the degree to which he would shout at anything. Bad news, good news, no news, he would shout. And so all the rest of us were kind of a little bit afraid of this Maya Thimbar. And so anyway, the little boy one day was dancing. Just like I used to be a school teacher, so I studied children's dances. No, I'm joking. So, sorry, this bangle keeps sliding down here. So he was dancing, and his grandfather came right up to him and said, "Why are you dancing?" And Bhuvanesh said, "Santosham." And he didn't say, "Yen santosham." He didn't say, "What gives you the right to have santosham?" The grandfather just smiled. He couldn't help it. It was just so innocent. It was just so sincere. He just had joy. Why did he feel joy? Because he felt joy. That's it. There's no reason. That's who we are. And so that's what we want to reconnect with. And so, as I said, affirmations are very helpful for just saying, how do I feel? Who cares? Let me give myself a positive message. Listen, we're doing affirmations either way. Either we're saying I'm positive, energetic, enthusiastic, or we're saying I'm tired, I'm tired, I'm tired, I'm tired, I might be hungry too, I'm tired, where is the bed? There's always something going on. So better to make the message a positive one and a useful one. And so one way we're going to do this now together is through affirmation. I'd like us to do an affirmation for willpower. I'm going to read it to you from this book. This is Affirmations for Self-Healing by Swami Kriyananda. We have it also in Tamil. I'm going to read the description of willpower here, and then we'll do the affirmation in English, but then we have the book in Tamil, so we'll also do the affirmation in Tamil, where I will be assisted. Willpower, and not the vague abstraction luck, is the secret to true achievement. Willpower on subtle energy levels generates what only looks like luck by magnetically attracting to us opportunities. Our will is strengthened by removing from our minds the no-saying tendency, the obstructions of doubt, of laziness, and of fear, yes, even of the fear of success. Willpower is developed by persevering to the conclusion of whatever one attempts. One should start first with little undertakings, then proceed to bigger ones. Infinite willpower comes from harnessing the little human will to God's infinite, all-powerful consciousness. Let me read the affirmation through once, and then we'll do it together. My will is to do that which is right to do. Part all you mountains that stand in my way. Nothing can stop my progress. Okay, so if you could repeat each line after me with strength. First, we're going to do this in a full voice. My will is to do that, which is right to do. Part all you mountains that stand in my way. Nothing can stop my progress. My will is to do that which is right to do. Part all you mountains that stand in my way. Nothing can stop my progress. Now a little more softly, taking it deeper into your mind. My will is to do that which is right to do. Part all you mountains that stand in my way. Nothing can stop my progress. Now if you can close your eyes, we'll do this in a whisper, taking it to the subconscious mind, reprogramming it. My will is to do that which is right to do. Part all you mountains that stand in my way. Nothing can stop my progress. And one more time now, silently concentrating at the spiritual eye in the forehead. My will is to do that which is right to do. Part all you mountains that stand in my way. Nothing can stop my progress. Okay, we'll do this one more time.
Just the affirmation. Now, before we do this, if I pause at any moment in this reading, I am not trying to be dramatic. I just wasn't aware of God's will for me today. So, the affirmation in Tamil, let me read it through once. எனது இச்சா சக்தி எது சரியானதோ அதை செய்வதே ஆகும். எனது வழியில் நிற்கும் மலைகளே நீர் ஒதுங்கி வழிவிடுங்கள். எனது வளர்ச்சிக்கு எதுவும் தடை விதிக்க முடியாது. Alright? So now we will do this together again in a full volume. எனது இச்சா சக்தி எது சரியானதோ அதை செய்வதே ஆகும். எனது இச்சா சக்தி எது சரியானதோ அதை செய்வதே ஆகும். எனது வழியில் நிற்கும் மலைகளே நீர் ஒதுங்கி வழிவிடுங்கள். எனது வளர்ச்சிக்கு எதுவும் தடை விதிக்க முடியாது. எனது இச்சா சக்தி எது சரியானதோ அதை செய்வதே ஆகும். எனது வழியில் நிற்கும் மலைகளே நீர் ஒதுங்கி வழிவிடுங்கள். எனது வளர்ச்சிக்கு எதுவும் தடை விதிக்க முடியாது. Now in a more quiet voice. எனது இச்சா சக்தி எது சரியானதோ அதை செய்வதே ஆகும். எனது வழியில் நிற்கும் மலைகளே நீர் ஒதுங்கி வழிவிடுங்கள். எனது வளர்ச்சிக்கு எதுவும் தடை விதிக்க முடியாது. Again taking this into your subconsciousness in a whisper. எனது இச்சா சக்தி எது சரியானதோ அதை செய்வதே ஆகும். எனது வழியில் நிற்கும் மலைகளே நீர் ஒதுங்கி வழிவிடுங்கள். எனது வளர்ச்சிக்கு எதுவும் தடை விதிக்க முடியாது. Again close your eyes, concentrating at the spiritual eye. எனது இச்சா சக்தி எது சரியானதோ அதை செய்வதே ஆகும். எனது வழியில் நிற்கும் மலைகளே நீர் ஒதுங்கி வழிவிடுங்கள். எனது வளர்ச்சிக்கு எதுவும் தடை விதிக்க முடியாது.
While we're in affirmation mode, I'd like us to also do one more. This is now switching gears into being able to tune into God's will for us. You see, well, maybe I will wait a little bit before we do this one. It requires a little more explanation. Of course, there is the cosmic aspect of God's will for all of mankind and all of creation, and there is also the particular, God's will for each one of us. Someone said to Yoganandaji that I can't imagine an infinite being beyond just this world, beyond just this solar system, beyond this galaxy, all galaxies, some infinite consciousness pervading everything, how could such a consciousness also be aware of us? In our we would seem like tiny little atoms or molecules. How in the vastness could we in particular also be noticed as individuals? It just doesn't seem possible for such an infinity. And Yoganandaji said, your concept of infinity is too finite. He said, God is not only infinitely large, he is also infinitely small. He's infinitesimal. And so I, as a mathematician, I was very pleased with this, because I was thinking there's as many numbers, on the number line in all directions as there are just between 0 and 1. And so this concept of infinitely, as an infinite smallness as well as an infinite largeness, is very appealing to us. But it's not just a theory. You see, God does have a will for us. The simple will of his is that we be happy. The challenge is that even though he wants us to be happy, he has a funny way of going about it sometimes by putting us through such difficult tests. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But suppose we don't even care about God's will. How do we awaken to the need for it? Well, we find ourselves unhappy. If we find ourselves dissatisfied, sometimes because everything's going fine. But is that it? Is this it? A friend of mine got married, got a house, they had a beautiful place together, everything was nice. Once she got all the spices and the proper order in the cabinet and closed it, she sat down and looked around and said, is this it? I now have everything I ever wanted. I have the husband, I have the job, I have the house, there's more coming, and I don't feel any happier really. I don't feel really joyful. I don't even feel fulfilled. It wasn't that they were unfulfilling. It's just that it wasn't enough. Sometimes there's something in our hearts that yearns for more. Sometimes when we go through a big disappointment, we say, well, my security rested in this, and then that was taken from me. So I would like my security to rest on something stronger than that. And so when we want to tune into God's will, as I said earlier, the first thing we have to do is to learn to listen. And whether we hear God's voice saying, you should move to Chegalpet, it may not come like that. It may be more that we will feel inside an inclination in one direction or another. First, we have to be able to listen to ourselves. And that may seem like, I have no problem listening to myself. You should hear me talk to myself and on and on and on. But it's not necessarily true. How many times have you found yourself kind of in a mood and you don't know why? I'm unhappy. Someone says, what a nice day. Is it really? Climate is hot these days. And we're grumpy. We're grouchy, but we don't know why. You could say, oh no, I do know why. Because in the morning, she said, no, I'm not. Sometimes we do know why. Even that you could analyze. But there are things that we just find ourselves. For example, a friend comes in who's really sad, and we try to cheer them up. Hey, don't worry, listen, I know it's hard, but hang in there. Then the friend leaves, and suddenly we're sad. And we don't know why. And sometimes it is mental that, I'm sad for my friend because my friend is hurting, so I'm hurting for her. Sure. Sometimes we don't realize that. I'm sad because sadness came into the room and I picked up on it. The more you meditate, the more sensitive you become to the feelings of others. People who you're close to, especially, you start to pick up on their feelings. They can talk to you and you know something's not quite right. I'm feeling uneasy. We can start to, again, feel the feelings of others. I had a friend who was so intuitive in this way. Once he was talking to me and then he started going, he said, is that my cough or yours? Wow. I seem to be okay. But so in this way, we start to listen, as I said, not only to others, but to ourselves. Introspection is a very helpful thing. What is hurting me? Why am I sad? And we can think back, well, actually, when that person said that nasty remark, I pretended it didn't bother me, but it did bother me. It hurt my feelings. And now I'm just sort of stuck on that. Even sometimes the awareness is enough to release it. So this is one of the great benefits, therefore, of meditation, of being able to get still enough so that we can notice what's going on inside of us. If you want to know God's will, there are two skills you need. One is to listen, the other is to feel. You see, really we get our guidance in the form of feeling. Getting any kind of higher guidance usually comes through intuition. Intuition, Yoganandaji defined as the power of knowing God, the soul's power of knowing God. Knowing, not understanding, figuring out, logically concluding or deducing, of just knowing. When you have an intuition, you just know. You have to test that intuition to make sure it's real and not just something, it has to be true because I want it to be true. I had this experience with Swami Kriyananda and my wife Dharmini. There was something that I wanted, and she wanted too, I think, and we emailed him to ask him, could this happen, please? And then she said, after we wrote to him and sent him the email, she said, why don't we sit and meditate? So I said, okay, we sat and we meditated. And during the meditation, I was trying to meditate, but I was also thinking, I hope he says yes, I hope he says yes, I hope he says yes. And we came out of the meditation, and she said to me, Swamiji doesn't want it. I said, how do you know? Were you checking email? How did he say? He didn't write back. She said, I just feel he doesn't want it. And I said, well, yeah, we will have to see what he says. I think he does want it because I want it. And so a few days later, we happened to meet Swami Kriyananda in a gathering, and he greeted us, and then he said, I'm sorry I didn't have a chance to reply to your letter. And then he turned to my wife Dharmini and he said, but I think you got my answer in your meditation. She smiled, he smiled, and I kind of... So we have to be clear that we're calm enough and detached enough to say, I just want to know the truth. The truth is always the shortcut. The truth is always the fastest way to happiness. Even if it's a truth I don't like, better to go along with the truth. So we have to be able to weigh it calmly with detachment to be able to feel which way our intuition is guiding us. And so that detachment is important. First step. I did not practice detachment in that scenario, thus I didn't get the message. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that God's ultimate will for us is, as I said, it is very specific. Each day you can even say, God, what would you like us to do together today? You can bring him into every tiny decision, and life is very sweet that way when you find yourself doing it in partnership with him. You just talk to him. Even if you don't hear an answer, just talk quietly, and maybe not when anyone else is around. They might get a little nervous. But inwardly, just have this, or you can just do japa, and you can just say anything you want. I love you, or I give this life to you, or Hare Ram and Hare Krishna, Sri Ram, Jai Ram, anything you want, just as a constant japa in the mind, but not unconscious. You know, you can say Sri Ram, Jai Ram, Sri Ram, Jai Ram, and then Rama comes, and we say Sri Ram, Sri Ram, Jai Ram. So we have to remember there's someone on the other side of this conversation. Okay? So when we want to practice this as much as we can, and the easiest way to do it, first of all, is to do exactly what you've done today, is practice these techniques. They help to get the energy up. That when we have more energy, we have more hope. We have more positive expectation. We sort of go from sort of being unconsciously negative to being consciously positive. Just taking a breath and smiling. I said to my one friend, I hope he wasn't my one friend. I said to one of my friends, one way you know if you're not following God's will is just when you look in the mirror, what do you see? Said, if you see this, there's a problem. So try to find some way to change the face, to improve the face, to upgrade the face. Chant, or go for a run, or do even these exercises like we did, but something. Okay, so remember, when you look in the mirror, if you see that face, he said, what happens when you're not even looking in the mirror? He said, I haven't even looked in the mirror in a month. It's okay, that's a real problem. I said, maybe you have to write a note on your shirt that just says, if you haven't smiled, you need some kind of hint. When you find yourself crazy and unhappy, then do this. Even if it starts with jangri. Something to put a smile on the face and get the energy moving. It's important to have fun. Sometimes we can get so serious about things. Yoganandaji was... When Swami Kriyananda first met him, Yoganandaji was sitting with him, and he took out a little paper bag, and this was Swamiji's first experience with a great master, his guru, an avatar, and so on. It was shortly after he had come to him, and he suddenly turned out the light, and then suddenly there were sparks shooting at Swamiji, and he turned on the light, and there was a gun, the toy gun that Yoganandaji was shooting that was firing sparks at Swamiji. And Swamiji again was thinking, yogas chitta vritti nirodha, is this from the Gita? How does this relate to, what I'm supposed to learn of the yoga teachings? And then he took another gun out and he pointed it at the ceiling and he fired it, and out came this little projectile and then a little parachute came floating down. And Swamiji said, we watched it gravely descend to the floor. And then Yoganandaji looked at him and said, how do you like it, Walter? And Swamiji said, it's fine, sir. And Yoganandaji said very seriously, suffer little children to come unto me, for of such is the kingdom of God. Meaning, be more like a child. Don't be so serious. God is the one who has to keep the earth rotating. He's doing a good job. He's probably going to keep it going tomorrow too. So we don't really have to do that job. He's also having it go around the sun, and he's also taking care of Pati and everybody else. And so we do what we can, but the rest is really in Divine Mother's hands, really. So we should do what's in front of us and then leave the rest to him. So I wanted to do this affirmation, another affirmation again. It's easy to be cheerful when we're cheerful. What do we do when we're not? So as I said, do some of these exercises. Come to things like this that are often put on by Bhavan, so you can get some inspiration that way, as I hope you have felt some. Any kind of a technique, one simple technique. If you can inhale and tense the body with a double breath. We did it while we were seated, but it was a single breath. A double breath is like this. Short, long through the nose, and then short, long through the mouth. All right, let's try that together. Double breath in through the nose. Okay, one more time. Yoganandaji said the double breath brings in more oxygen than usual, and the double breath exhalation throws out more carbon dioxide than usual. Now, let's inhale with a double breath and tense the body this time. So inhale, and then exhale, relax. Let's do this twice more. Can you feel a difference in your energy just from that? In addition to bringing in more oxygen and so on, what we're really doing is using our willpower to draw in energy into the body, to draw prana into the body through the use of our willpower. Another thing that we're doing too is releasing unconscious tension. Many times we are tense and somebody says relax, and then we have to relax all of our unconscious tension. But how can you do it? If we're not conscious of it, we don't know what to do if it's unconscious. Yoganandaji said the way to do it is to tense and then relax. And then you relax the tension you added, plus the unconscious tension. It's hard to just relax more. But if you tense and then relax, then you can. So remember this technique. If it's the only one, this double breath with tension, and then exhale and relax. So let's do one more affirmation. This one is on God remembrance. Swami Kriyanandaji says, to remember God means not only to think of Him constantly, but to realize that finding Him is an act of remembrance truly, for it is from Him that we have come. When the clouds of delusion evaporate from our minds, what will be left is what was there always, hidden behind the clouds, the blazing sun of divine consciousness. This is also the way Patanjali defines self-realization, enlightenment. He says, what happens at that time of union with God? He says, smriti, memory. We simply remember, this is what I've been the whole time. This is what I always was. When you start to meditate, you start to feel more joy. One common experience that we have is that we say, I remember when I was a child, I was happy like this. Before there were taxes to pay and things like that, before GST, certainly. I was just a kid who was happy, santosham, didn't have any worries, and I start to feel that same carefree joy again. It comes back in meditation. Again, memory. I used to have this, we remember. One should not strain nor reach outward mentally to think of God. Know that He has been yours always, nearer than your nearest thoughts and feelings, nearer than the very prayers you offer Him. Think not merely about Him, think to Him. Share with Him your passing feelings, your idlest fancy. Talk with Him. Practice His presence, at first perhaps for minutes a day, then for hours, and then all the time. I'll read through the affirmation once. I will live in the remembrance of what I am in truth, bliss infinite, eternal love. Let's do this together first in a full voice. I will live in the remembrance of what I am in truth, bliss infinite, eternal love. I will live in the remembrance of what I am in truth, bliss infinite, eternal love. A little more softly. I will live in the remembrance of what I am in truth, bliss infinite, eternal love. Now in a whisper, taking it to the subconscious mind. I will live in the remembrance of what I am in truth, bliss infinite, eternal love. Now silently concentrating at the spiritual eye right here. I will live in the remembrance of what I am in truth, bliss infinite, eternal love. And Swamiji also gives this prayer. Let's pray. Please pray after. Please repeat after me if you feel to. Lord, Thou art always with me. Help me to feel behind my thoughts Thy inspiration, behind my every emotion, Thy calm, all-transforming love. We'll do this one more time.
So let me read this through once. The affirmation is, நான் உண்மையில் எதுவாக இருக்கிறேனோ அதை நினைவு கூறி வாழ்வேன். அளவில்லா பரமானந்தம், சாஸ்வதமான அன்பு. So now let's say it in parts. Again with a strong voice first. நான் உண்மையில் எதுவாக இருக்கிறேனோ அதை நிறைவு கூறி வாழ்வேன். அளவில்லா பரமானந்தம், சாஸ்வதமான அன்பு. நான் உண்மையில் எதுவாக இருக்கிறேனோ அதை நினைவு கூறி வாழ்வேன். அளவில்லா பரமானந்தம், சாஸ்வதமான அன்பு. Now in a lesser voice, நான் உண்மையில் எதுவாக இருக்கிறேனோ அதை நினைவு கூறி வாழ்வேன். அளவில்லா பரமானந்தம், சாஸ்வதமான அன்பு. In a whisper now, taking it into the subconscious, நான் உண்மையில் எதுவாக இருக்கிறேனோ அதை நினைவு கூறி வாழ்வேன். அளவில்லா பரமானந்தம், சாஸ்வதமான அன்பு. Now closing your eyes and concentrating on the spiritual eye, silently repeat this. நான் உண்மையில் எதுவாக இருக்கிறேனோ அதை நினைவு கூறி வாழ்வேன். அளவில்லா பரமானந்தம், சாஸ்வதமான அன்பு.
Let's just take a moment to meditate. Let's sit up straight. Let's inhale and tense the body with a double breath like we practiced. Twice more. And again, offer from your heart whatever prayer you feel, whatever you'd like to ask of God, whether as Heavenly Father or Divine Mother, or as your friend, or as your beloved, in the form of your Guru, however you relate to God. Let's begin with offering whatever gratitude you feel for any of the blessings in your life. Gratitude is another easy way to start to feel more joy, more relaxation, even more willpower. What we are thankful for. Take a moment to offer gratitude for something specific if you feel to. And now, if you would like, you could also offer a prayer to God for anything that you would like in your life, whether it be an outward situation, a change in life circumstance, a healing for someone else, or for a greater experience of God's joy in your own heart, in your own consciousness. Whatever you feel to, sincerely ask if you feel to at all. Let's take a moment now to offer that prayer. And while still meditating, we'll listen to this poem of Paramhansa Yogananda which he wrote, called God's Boatman, which recently has been translated into Tamil.
So again, continuing to meditate, offering our love, gratitude in divine joy. This poem, Yogananda's immortal promise to us all. கடவுளின் படகோட்டி பரமஹன்ச யோகானந்தரின் கவிதை. நான் என் படகை ஓட்டி வர விழைகிறேன் பலமுறை, இறப்பை தாண்டி உள்ள வளைகுடாவின் குறுக்கே இப்பூமியின் கரைகளுக்கு திரும்புவேன். சொர்க்கத்திலுள்ள என் வீட்டிலிருந்து என் படகில் ஏற்றிக்கொள்ள விழைகிறேன் காத்திருப்பவர்களை, தாகத்துடன் உள்ளவர்களை, பின்தங்கிவிட்டவர்களை. ஏற்றிக்கொண்டு செல்வேன் அந்த ஆனந்த வண்ணமய வானவில் நிறைந்த மாணிக்க குளம் வழியே. எங்கே என் தந்தை அளிக்கிறாரோ ஆசைகளெல்லாம் தீர்க்கும் அவரின் அமைதி அமுதை. ஓ, நான் வருவேன் மீண்டும் மீண்டும், துன்பமெனும் பல்லாயிரம் கொடும்பாறைகளை தாண்டி குருதி வழியும் பாதத்தோடு நான் வருவேன், வேண்டுமெனில் பல கோடி முறை. ஒரு வழி தவறிய சகோதரன் பின்தங்கியுள்ளான் என்று எனக்கு தெரியும் வரை. நீங்கள் எனக்கு வேண்டும் ஓ இறைவா, நான் உங்களை எல்லோருக்கும் கொடுப்பதற்கு. எனக்கு பேரின்பப் பேறு வேண்டும், அதை நான் எல்லோருக்கும் கொடுப்பதற்கு. விடுவித்து விடு என்னை ஓ இறைவா இவ்வுலகின் தலையிலிருந்து. அதனால் நான் காட்டுவேன் அவர்களுக்கு எப்படி அவர்கள் தங்களை விடுவித்துக் கொள்வதென. எனக்கு தங்களின் நிலைத்திருக்கும் இன்பம் வேண்டும், அதை மட்டுமே பிறருடன் நான் பகிர்ந்து கொள்ள. அதனால் என் சகோதரர்களுக்கு நான் காட்டித் தருவேன் இன்பத்திற்கான வழியை என்றென்றும் என்றென்றும் உன்னுள்ளே.
And let's close our meditation by offering a healing prayer. This is a technique Yoganandaji taught for sending energy to someone at a distance. So with eyes closed, bring to mind someone you know in need of healing, someone you would like to send God's blessings to, whether for healing in body or healing in mind or healing in soul, spiritual healing, to have more joy in their lives. Take a moment to visualize this person well, healthy, strong, happy. See this as a fact, not with worry, but with confidence that this is where this person is already. And if you feel to join me, this is the healing prayer Yoganandaji gave. Divine Mother, Thou art omnipresent. Thou art in all Thy children. Manifest Thy healing presence in their bodies, in their minds, and in their souls. And we rub the hands together, drawing energy into the hands. And then we hold the hands outward, chanting Om 3 times, sending the energy to the person. Om. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.